Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to George Mack Plays the Classics. Miss Piggy has been kidnapped in Muppet Adventure Chaos at the Carnival. As her longtime beau, Kermit the Frog must team up with his friends to find a way to save her. Dr. Grump has taken the piggiest starlet in the world to his secret carnival hideout. You, alongside Kermit, Gonzo, Animal, and Fozzie, will have to seek out keys in 4 different attractions to unlock the cave of the Grumposaurus. You begin by choosing one of the 4 different levels. Kermit goes down the raging river ride on an inner tube with a paddle. The goal is to avoid obstacles while floating down the river. Be careful, as hitting anything will take away 1 heart of power. You can move left and right and speed up and down, but damage is unavoidable. You'll get forced into dead ends and caught in whirlpools that you can't escape. Keep an eye out for periscopes to replenish your health and buoys to add to your rides. Animal hops in a go-kart and crash car course. Press the A button to go and maneuver around obstacles. Collecting orange flags add to points, and snagging 5 green flags will refill your power. The car seems to drift, so success isn't guaranteed. Bombs are what will kill you, but avoiding them is easier said than done. Fozzie Bear must walk through 30 mazes to find his key. Each maze has at least 1 evil carnival barker looking to grab you, and you must collect a bow tie, present, and bow tie in that order to move to the next maze. There are hearts, bones, and bananas that you can use to distract your enemies, but it takes precision to pull that off. Gonzo takes off in the Lost in Space ride. This is easily the most difficult of the 4 levels. The A button thrusts from the engine of the ship. You press left or right on the D-pad to change your heading. You want to be precise, but tapping the button will often do absolutely nothing. So then you press too long and overshoot your goal. Navigation is really frustrating. The B button shoots your gun, which you'll need to master the angles of in order to hit enemies while avoiding their projectiles. And don't shoot your power-ups, or they'll be destroyed, and you'll end up dying. The UFO boss at the end is luckily pretty easy. Once you collect all 4 keys, you head to a platforming level with Kermit. Miss Piggy's personal effects are scattered around the level, and I couldn't figure out how to reach them, until I accidentally discovered you can bounce off enemy heads to get more height. At the end of this stage, if you don't lose your lives falling to your doom, you fight the Grumposaurus. This decidedly not lizard-looking creature will punch you off the ledge and eat all your lives. It took me 10 minutes of attempts before I bum-rushed him as he came on screen and lucked out by knocking him off. I can see this being the spot where children quit this game and never came back. But that's not all, because you then have to defeat Dr. Grump by launching hearts into the air and landing them on his head. Good luck. When it comes to grading Muppet Adventure Chaos at the Carnival on NES, graphics get a 1.0. Everything looks pretty lousy and there is a ton of flickering. Sound gets a 1.5. The music is probably the best thing in the game, and that's not saying much. Gameplay gets a 1.0. Each level is too simple and not well thought out. Difficulty gets a 0.5. Each level is set up with gotcha difficulty, and then the impossible Grumposaurus, and not having any hint on how to beat Dr. Grump is bad design. Fun factor gets a 0. This is not a fun game in the slightest. Each level is boring and or broken. Overall, Muppet Adventure Chaos at the Carnival earns a 0.8 and gets a D. A cavalcade of brokenness awaits for you if you want to give it a shot. I recommend against it myself. Take your favorite WWF superstar to the championship in WWF WrestleMania Challenge. There are 3 modes of play available for you. Pick from and battle against 7 superstars, and Brutus the Barber Beefcake in singles action. Partner with your other favorite superstar in tag team action, or choose a team of 3 and take on others in the Survivor Series. It's time for WrestleMania. There are actually 9 superstars that you can choose from.
including the Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan, Macho King Randy Savage, Andre the Giant, Ravishing Rick Rude, the Big Boss Man, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, and in a first, yourself. Matches take place in an isometric ring and movement on the D-pad is tilted so pressing up takes you to the ropes instead of the corner. You can strike by pressing or tapping the A button, go for a body slam or back grapple by pressing the B button, and initiate a power move by pressing the A and B buttons simultaneously. The power moves are all strike-based. Hacksaw's power move is the 3-point stance, which sends him charging into the corner if you aren't careful. This is the sequel to Rare-developed WWF WrestleMania, but the quality of the themes have dropped, especially Real American. Rick Rude's theme is right out of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. The Big Boss Man theme is good. And despite never actually having a theme, Andre's is badass. New in this installment are tag matches and 3-on-3 Survivor Series matches. Making a tag is as simple as walking near your partner and pressing the select button. The superstar on the outside of the ring will regain their health, making smart tags important to win. Survivor Series matches are elimination as you expect, so it's a novel experience. While wrestlers have the same controls and play mostly the same, there are some slight differences. Look how slow Brother Brutai moves. At least they got that part right. I do like that sprites have size differences, but I really don't like that everyone can slam Andre. But when it's the only move everyone has, I guess I have to deal with it. There are now attacks to downed opponents, which will be your main way of doing damage. The leg drop is in the game, but Hogan doesn't have it. Can anyone tell me why? When the Ultimate Warrior throws you outside of the ring, a panic sets in because climbing back in can be tough. It's weird because there are two different counts instead of one unified count as there should be. Matches take less than a minute to complete, so I tried making my way through the singles mode as the Avatar character. But when I got to Hogan, he took the first fall. When I suggested I win the next one to set up a rubber match, he replied, "That doesn't work for me, brother," and took 3 in a row, ending my championship hopes. When it comes to grading WWF WrestleMania Challenge on NES, graphics get a 1.5. Wrestlers are small, and you can tell who they are, but they don't look good. Sound gets 2.0. Sound quality is a letdown, but it is obviously Rare's sound font. There are a lot of effects that are reused throughout their games. Gameplay gets a 1.0. You're playing tag most of the time as your opponent runs from you or you try to hide for health. When you want to attack, positioning is all over the place. Difficulty gets 2.0. Wrestlers increase in difficulty as you move up the ladder. Better be perfect against Hogan or be ready for his creative control. Fun factor gets a 1.0. I remember this game being a lot more fun when I was a kid, but it pales in comparison to Nintendo and Tecmo's wrestling outings. Overall, WWF WrestleMania Challenge earns a 1.5 and gets a C-. It would have been nice if the programmers from Rare had taken some time to watch some wrestling events before being tapped to develop wrestling games.
It's mini golf, but it can't just be that, so let's play some zany golf. Electronic Arts is back with another PC port that is, well, not the most tuned game for the system. You have 9 holes that you're going to be figuring out the angles for in order to score as low as possible. The holes range from typical mini golf fare to unrealistic craziness. Most holes have a gimmick to them, like a pinball table where you need to hit the drop targets before the hole opens, or the hole where you need to rotate the D-pad in order to power fans to blow you in the correct direction. There's the hole with a moving target on top of a hill. Maybe you need to press button A rapidly to bounce a hamburger to uncover the hole. And the final hole is a huge mess where you need to avoid ball-destroying obstacles while hitting buttons and then avoiding fake holes to hit the real one. On most levels, you can place your ball on one of a few spots by moving the cursor where you want it and pressing button A. To hit your ball, press and hold button A when the cursor is on top of the ball. Then pull back in the opposite direction of where you want the ball to go. The farther you pull the cursor back, the harder you hit the ball. Hopefully you're good at hitting the right angle to put the ball where you want it. You have a set amount of strokes shown in the upper right corner, and when that falls to 0, your game is over. To send you off today, here's a cavalcade of my hole-in-one shots. When it comes to grading zany golf on Sega Genesis, graphics get a 1.5. The graphics are interesting, but the frame rate is far too low and the perspective is not intuitive. Sound, it's a 1.5. I don't have the proper words to describe the audio. It sounds like it comes from a crappy late 80s computer MIDI synthesizer. Some people might find enjoyment, but I'm not a big fan. Gameplay gets a 2.0. Set your angle and power by pulling the cursor and hope you got it right. Difficulty gets a 2.0. Play through a couple times and you'll have most of the holes mastered. Fun factor gets a 1.0. I didn't have a great time doing it though. Overall, Zany Golf earns a 1.6 and gets a C-. I couldn't find a manual anywhere online for this game, so if you have one, maybe contribute a scan to Sega Retro. Otherwise, don't feel like you need to bother. Delve into a trapped dungeon to save your mentor in The Immortal. The wizard Mortimer has been lost in this dungeon. He is sent for his students to save him from his fate. Though you are not Dunrick, you are next in line to make your way to the bottom and untangle the twisted tale full of trolls, goblins, wizards, and dragons. A smoky image greets you as you awaken in a cell to give you your overarching plans. Moving into the next room, you see a cavalcade of fire-producing traps on the walls and grounds. Getting hit by the wall fireballs will reduce your health, while stepping on a floor trap will immolate you immediately. Prepare to continue. You notice a goblin fighting a man and walk over, but are immediately thrust into a one-on-one battle. You must dodge attacks by holding the A button and leaning in the opposite direction of his swing. As you increase his fatigue, his speed drops and you can attack by holding a direction and pressing the B button. Each enemy increases in difficulty, requiring quicker reaction time, or you will have to prepare to continue. Little beds of straw are the only proper way to replenish your health and will impart some dreams for you to gain insight on what's going on. There are many items that you collect, and all of them have a use. Though you might get curious and try an item, like these spores, mostly if you use them at the wrong time, prepare to continue. You do have to be in the exact proper spot when using items or they won't do what you want them to. Hark! A light on the wall to hold the amulet up to. Just don't read the incantation on the back or prepare to continue. This potion shrinks you to walk through a crack in the wall, but it also poisons you, so find an antidote or prepare to continue. What is this little thing flying around and attacking me? Hit it with a fireball to make it dead, or prepare to continue. These arrows are poisonous, so you need to avoid them, or prepare to continue. I'm on a magic carpet, because the alternative of being eaten by a worm sounds like another reason I will prepare to continue. I shall dethrone the Goblin King. Prepare to continue. There's a pit in the ground. Tap your button rapidly and steadily or prepare to continue. Stairs down. Make sure you enter the square by way of the stairs or prepare to continue. What's this green blob? Can I talk to it? Nope, but I can prepare to continue. They call me Barrel Rider, but if this Norlac catches me, I must prepare to continue. The ending requires a very specific and properly timed sequence of commands. If you don't get them right, prepare to continue. Luckily, there is a password certificate given to you at the ending of each dungeon level. That way you don't have to do it all in one sitting, or worry about having to restart at the beginning of the game when you run out of lives. When it comes to grading The Immortal on NES, graphics get a 2.5. I don't really care for the isometric view or the font they use throughout the game, but you know what? The sprites and animations are pretty good. Sound gets a 2.5. The music and sounds are good. and feel like they are crafted with care. Gameplay gets a 1.0. Most rooms have traps that are visible. Others are invisible. All battles are boring to play through. Difficulty gets a 1.0. If you have adventure game brain, you will probably brute force your way to every solution, but expect to die dozens of times on your way. The instruction manual gives you heavy hints to most solutions. Fun factor gets a 1.0. This wasn't a very fun adventure and felt more like a chore to play. Overall, The Immortal earns a 1.6 and gets a C-. If you need an adventure game to frustrate you for a while, have at this one. Otherwise, stay away. I'll see if the Genesis version is any better when I get to November 1991. If you want to ruin some pizza, you just yell out, "Yo, Noid!" A bunch of no-good hoodlums are wrecking shop in New York City. It's up to the Noid, Domino's pizza-ruining mascot of the 1980s, to clean up the city. The Green Noid has been up to no good, and 14 levels stand between you and him, so get ready to eat. We've got your typical uninspired platformer here. The Noid jumps with the A button and attacks with his yo-yo with the B button. There's a big emphasis on hidden blocks that need to be hit with your yo-yo. You also have to keep an eye out on enemies, like these fish, that appear when you're not expecting them. The Noid has no ability to take a hit, so running into someone means your death. Except for the enemies that you can jump on. Trial and error is your best friend here, leading to many deaths to learn all you need to know. There are scrolls that you collect during each stage that act as magic points. Large scrolls will either count as 5 MP, or can be attacked to reveal a spell. The snowflake-looking icon kills most enemies on screen. The odd symbols shakes the screen and kills land-based enemies. The Dark Noid increases your speed and jumping ability. These are activated by pressing the B button and down simultaneously. I didn't use them much, but I probably should have. Some levels have special gimmicks to them. There's a boat level that you have to jump on them and hit icons that build bridges for you. There are a couple ornithopter levels where you have to tap the A button to stay flying and avoid obstacles. There's a skateboarding level where you need to jump over and into certain baddies while trucking along. You start with 3 continues, but can earn an extra if you happen to find the whack-a-mole secret level. Enemies act unpredictably, like these balloons that turn to stone. After every few levels, you face off against a counterfeit Noid in a pizza-eating contest. Each Noid has 16 cards that must be chosen strategically. The computer chooses a numbered card at random. This represents how many pizzas they will eat. Choosing a card with a higher number gives you pizzas to eat, but choosing a card with a lower number gives them pizzas to eat. Your goal is to fill your pizza meter before them. This is where the special icons found in the stages come in handy, because they can double or triple the number on the card, cause your opponent to not eat what he's chosen, or even make him suffer a reversal of fortune on pies he's already downed. Beating the final Green Noid rewards you with some scenes and more pizza. When it comes to grading Yo Noid on NES, graphics get a 2.0. Everything looks interesting enough, but I can't call it good. Sound gets a 2.0. Music and sounds are serviceable at best. Gameplay gets a 2.0. Noid controls alright, and there are a number of things that he can do to get through a level. Difficulty gets a 1.5. There's a lot of cheap difficulty spikes that require you to die and figure out where spawns are going to happen, or what guys you can kill or not. Fun factor gets a 1.5. I didn't really enjoy it a lot, but it had its moments. Overall, Yo Noid earns a 1.8 and gets a C. I wouldn't call this much of a success, just like the mascot itself. Get to the streets and murder everyone you see in The Punisher. Seriously, as Frank Castle, you will kill over 1,300 street thugs, 5 higher level bosses, and the Kingpin over 19 stages. Hey, they took your family away for eternity. They deserve it. Can you live with the blood on your hands? Begin by choosing which boss you want to go after. You're thrust into an auto side-scrolling shooting gallery. Move your reticle around the screen and shoot your automatic machine pistol with the A button. Your ammo is limited, and if you run out, you lose your rapid fire ability. You also have a small stash of grenades if you want some higher firepower that you launch with the B button. A small selection of enemies will pop up at set points, and you need to shoot them before they can shoot you. While you're firing, you have to stand still, but otherwise will move left and right a little lagged behind your aim. Many things in the environment are destructible as items are hidden. You're going to need all the bullets, health, and grenades you can find. Just shoot everything that looks like it could be destructible. You can occasionally find an assault rifle to increase your bullet spraying capabilities. Grenades can be upgraded to the rocket launcher for better explosions. If you can find Kevlar vests, you could increase your maximum health. Occasional bonus rooms can be found if you meet the requirements for opening them. After 100 or so enemies, you reach the end of the stage. As long as you're thorough in shooting your enemies, you can earn bonuses. Killing 100% of enemies on a stage gets you the super gun, which is as good as its name. Just don't collect another gun power-up until you're out of bullets, or you'll lose it. Though all the bad guys that come on screen deserve to be 86th, the sax man is not someone who needs to be punished. When you hear his song, be wary. How does he get everywhere I'm going? Bosses have patterns that you'll learn as you fight them. If you can find ways to hit and run, you'll do well. Whatever you do, don't try to go punch for punch with the bosses. If they get in your face, dodge and wait until you can shoot them with your guns. Kingpin was a cinch with the super gun, but I can see him being a problem otherwise. Hopefully you'll have as many lives as I did when you reach him. Well, my job's finished. Until next time. When it comes to grading the Punisher on NES, graphics get a 1.5. Graphics aren't sharp and are in fact quite janky. Sound gets a 1.5. Very little music. Bullet sounds are alright. Gameplay gets a 1.5. Use the D-pad to aim your targeting reticle around the screen and avoid as many oncoming bullets as you can. Difficulty gets a 3.0. You're eased into the missions and they increase in difficulty appropriately. Fun factor gets a 2.0. I had an alright time killing all the Punisher's enemies. Overall, the Punisher earns a 1.9, gets a C. It wasn't the best game in the world, but it's okay. You can certainly pick a worse game developed by Beam Software. The universe is in trouble of being invaded. Save us, Silver Surfer! The Herald of Galactus stars in this shoot-'em-up in an attempt to save the universe from the magic domain. You must collect 6 pieces of a device that the creatures of the magic domain plan to use to tear a hole into our universe. You must go through 6 stages in order to stop their diabolical plans. You begin by choosing one of 5 stages. The instruction manual highly suggests starting with Reptile or Mephisto, and I concur. There are 3 sections of each stage that could be either horizontally scrolling or vertical scrolling. Both require you to press the A button to fire your weapon. There's no rapid fire option, but a turbo controller would be extremely nice for this game, as you need to be firing constantly. Killing specific enemies will drop power-ups. The F icon powers up your gun 5 different times. The little white ball is an orb, which is your option. Horizontal stages allow 1 orb, while vertical stages allow 2. You can change the direction they fire with a tap of the B button. You'll spend 90% of gameplay or more with the orbs firing forward. There are only a couple times backward, down, or to the sides were useful. You can also collect the occasional screen-clearing bomb with the B icon. These aren't super useful on bosses, but I was happy to have them occasionally on the stages. Each stage is extremely unforgiving. Until you learn what's coming your way, you'll constantly see the Silver Surfer crying on his surfboard. You start with 5 lives, but they chip down quickly. When you die, you lose your power-ups, which is a death sentence in this game. The plus is that once you memorize everything, the levels aren't that terrible. The worst thing at that point will be fighting your hitbox against the edges of the level. Surprisingly, the bosses are incredibly easy. If you make it to them, blowing them away happens before you realize it. The final boss confused me. The picture looked like Mr. Sinister, but it was a giant purple thingy. He was a pushover. As long as you're good at avoiding giant slow bullets, you can beat this one and feel pretty good about yourself. When it comes to grading Silver Surfer on NES, graphics get a 2.0. There are some neat accent pieces, but the graphics aren't anything special. Sound gets a 3.0. The soundtrack is pretty rockin', and I liked it a lot. Gameplay gets a 2.0. Everything is run-of-the-mill shoot 'em up. Unfortunately, it doesn't do either scrolling version well. Difficulty gets a 1.0. You have to memorize everything because stuff will come out of nowhere at you or you'll get pushed into a dead end. Fun factor gets a 1.5. It's not a really fun game, but it isn't an awful time. Overall, Silver Surfer earns a 1.9 and gets a C. It's not a really great game. It's not totally bad, but there's a lot of BS deaths in your future if you give it a shot. You've been granted the powers of the great spirit Warwolf and Werewolf, the Last Warrior. The evil Farian has taken over and his disciples lurk around every corner. He must be stopped at any cost. You aren't going to be able to do this on your own, but luckily you have the ability to transform into the titular werewolf. Do you have what it takes to make it through 5 intensely difficult stages? You begin in human form and are immediately thrust into a boss battle. Giant Head, as he is called, will get you accustomed to the controls. Jump and attack are reversed from conventional design, with the B button designated to jump and the A button as your punch. This can lead to unfortunate deaths if you're not paying enough attention. Human form has the ability to shoot a beam by holding the A button until flashing. You're going to want to seek out red W icons that transform you into the werewolf. Item icons can sometimes be found from dead enemies, but are more likely procured by punching objects in the environment. You have to stumble into this because it is not spelled out for you in the manual or in-game. You can find hearts to replenish health, hourglasses to increase your level timer, big orbs that make you invincible for a moment, dollar signs for bonus points, 1-ups, and the blue W, which is to be avoided. Blue W's will sap your werewolf status or eat half your maximum health bar if you're in human form. The werewolf form is where you can have some fun. Your attacks are more powerful and have a greater reach. You may lose your power ray, but it is replaced by a full screen attack that depletes some of your health when used. You have some new means of getting around the level as a werewolf, including wall climbing, ceiling walking, and the super useful backflip. The downside of these abilities is they require pretty precise timing. This is especially true of the ceiling walk, which requires you to be pixel perfect and doesn't always work. You can even transform into a super version if you collect enough gray bubbles to increase your anger meter. As the super werewolf, you jump higher and hit harder, but only as long as your anger lasts. There's a lot of BS present in the levels, whether it's getting trapped because the screen won't scroll back the way you came, or if it's jumping fish that can't be easily swiped while jumping over pits, lightning bolts that appear and kill you instantly, lasers that will trap you unless you're a werewolf and can backflip through them. Could be items falling from the sky while dynamite is being thrown at you and enemies keep respawning. Blocks that blend into the background causing you to fall down a pit. Maybe the countless number of times you'll die while trying to learn the pattern of the stage's boss battle. When it comes to grading Werewolf, the Last Warrior on NES, graphics get a 2.5. Everything looks nice enough with plenty of colors, but some color choices made platforms difficult to see. Sound gets a 3.0. I think music and sound design is the thing that people can totally agree is good, except for the non-stop alarm siren in the second half of Stage 3. gameplay gets a 2.0. There's some surprising depth to the proceedings, but it doesn't all work as fluidly as I'd like it to. Difficulty gets a 1.0. The game is straight up unfair. Beyond throwing stuff at you with no respite, there are so many spikes in difficulty that will require you to get lucky to get past. You'll need a perfect run to succeed. At least you can make it through bosses when you learn their pattern. Fun factor gets a 1.5. For every high, there are more lows. I expect this is a very polarizing game. Overall, Werewolf: The Last Warrior earns a 2.0 and gets a C. You've got a huge mix of good and bad present here. Really, the journey is mostly infuriating, adding to my anger meter. If I didn't have the ability to time travel, I probably would have walked away from this one early. The class of kings on highest level, I am Formula 1, built to win. Build up your fleet, outfit them with better equipment, and win as many races as you can to become champion. You'll start by becoming the best racer in America before qualifying for the F1 circuit, where you need to be the points leader after 16 races. There are some definite precursor to Gran Turismo vibes in this one. You start out with a Mini Cooper to drive and $2,000 in your pocket. There are 10 cities you'll need to travel to in order to earn higher class licenses and money to upgrade your parts. Some cities have part shops where you can buy nitro refills, tires, engines, turbo, brakes, suspension, bumpers, and body upgrades. These all have an effect on the stats of your car, and you'll want to choose wisely or get used to running low-level races over and over for money. You'll have to do this at some point anyway. Unless you're lucky. Then you can stop by the Seta Casino in Las Vegas and try your luck at the slots. Each race has an entrance fee, except for a couple exceptions, so you can't put yourself into a dead man driving situation. Low-level races are just one lap around the track, and you have to be quick to put yourself into a position to win. After you get a better license, each race becomes 2 laps. Acceleration happens by holding the A button, and brakes are activated with the B button. Gears shift on their own, and when you're at top speed, you can hold the up button to use your nitro. How you take corners relies heavily on the tires you have equipped. These wear out after every race, so I found myself in a pattern of refilling my nitro and buying new tires after I finished. On the track, there are green cars and blue cars. The blue cars are your opponents that you need to pass in order to gain position. Green cars are just there to get in your way, usually by switching lanes right in front of you. And boy, will they. While it looks like you can race around the country off the bat, in fact, you really can't take races out of order. The license requirements keep you to the East Coast to begin with, moving west as you level up. Each city has 3 races that you have to enter and win. There are 4 degrees of licenses that unlock new parts as you get them. When you can't win with the best parts available to you, it's time to upgrade your Mini Cooper into a Vector W2 for a nice speed boost. Once you outgrow that, you trade it in for a Ferrari F40. This will hold you over until you qualify for a Formula 1 race car. When you reach the F1 circuit, you have to start from scratch on your upgrades. Here, you only have to worry about upgrading your engine, acceleration, and tire grip. There are 5 levels of each at $100,000 per upgrade. You need to be upgraded right away if you want to come close to a chance at winning the points race over the next 16 races. F1 tracks have you qualify for starting position, good luck getting above 4th, and then send you on 2 laps around the track to score points. The green cars are back, and I can't come up with a good reason why everyone in this official F1 race wouldn't count toward positioning. And don't forget to fill your nitro after each track. I ended up in 2nd place by 46 points, then sent back to the first F1 race and called it a loss. When it comes to grading Formula 1 built to win on NES, graphics get a 2.0. Nothing we haven't seen several times in other racing games. Flickering can make your life a pain if too many cars are on screen with you. Sound gets a 2.0. You can choose one of 3 songs before each race. I like 2 of them, and they kindly remove the terrible engine noises of the no music option. Gameplay gets a 2.0. The races all feel the same. Green cars will annoy you by getting in your way and spinning you out. Blue cars at the highest level are faster than you. Difficulty gets a 3.0. As I reflect, the game is totally deterministic. If you don't have the best parts you can, there are races you cannot win. It doesn't matter if you're the best racer possible on the track. Fun factor gets 2.5. I liked the license races, but got really bored and frustrated with the F1 races, especially near the end when I couldn't sniff the top racer, even when running a perfect qualifying lap and 2 race laps. Overall, Formula 1 Built to Win earns a 2.3 and gets a C+. I think this is a pretty good racing game, but there is a lot of improvement in quality of life that could make it a very good racing game. Maybe the 2 F1 games they made on Super Nintendo will be better. Clear boards of different like shapes in Puzznic. Are you tired of shooting bad guys, jumping over pits, saving the world from evil? Well, instead of training your reflexes, it's time to train your brain. Make your way through 240 puzzles in 2 styles of game to be the ultimate brainiac. Choosing the Puzznic mode has you going through 16 stages full of 10 puzzles each. Your goal is to clear the board of blocks. To do this, you have to have 2 or more like blocks touching. You need to check how many blocks of each kind are present and then formulate a plan. You can't take too long because the time starts ticking away. You move the blocks by pressing the A button on them and then pressing left or right to move them. You can't move up or down directly, but there are elevator blocks that will do that for you. The challenge comes in not blocking yourself into an unwinnable situation or leaving yourself with an odd block out. If you do find yourself jammed up, you can press the start button and use one of your 2 retries. You don't get the time you used back, but if you're quick, you might be able to clear the board. If you run out of time or tries, you have to continue and lose all of the points you've built up. A password is provided for each level in the pause menu. If you get tired of Puzznic mode, as I did, you can try Gravnic mode. Instead of moving each block individually, you move gravity in one of the 4 cardinal directions. This takes up one of your moves, and you have to clear the board before you hit 0. Points are awarded based on the stage you're on, how many moves you have left, and how many retries you still have. I like this mode better, as I wasn't being rushed by the countdown of the clock. When it comes to grading Puzznic on NES, graphics get a 1.0. There really isn't anything particularly nice graphics-wise here. It's Spartan in design. Sound gets a 1.0. The music is too repetitive and not very pleasant. Gameplay gets a 3.0. The gameplay is solid, though getting those matches can sometimes be more of a pain than you'd like, especially if you press the D-pad too quickly. Difficulty gets a 3.5. There were a couple puzzles that I didn't find particularly fair, but the build-up makes a proper learning curve. Fun factor gets a 3.0. I liked Gravnic mode a whole lot better than Puzznic mode. Your mileage may vary. Overall, Puzznic earns a 2.3 and gets a C+. This coasts to its grade on the things that I think matter. You don't need to play with the sound up, but I think it's worth your time if you like puzzle games. Shoot your dice in a way that removes them all from the board in Palamedes. It's been said that dice have been in existence since at least 67 AD. Sophocles contends that dice were invented by Prince Palamedes of Greece. Ah, mythology, where anything goes! This title is a line-clearing game using 6-sided dice as the pieces. Rows of dice come down from the top of the screen. It's up to you to clear them before they hit your avatar on the bottom row. You can add a dice block to your hand by shooting it with a like number face. You cycle through the numbers with the B button and launch the dice straight up with the A button. The bottom of the screen shows your current hand. Up to 6 die can be held in your hand at any time, and hitting any more will push the farthest left dice out. You can use your hand to clear lines by pressing down on the D-pad. Getting 3 of a kind will clear 1 row, with each extra duplicate clearing an extra line. You can also clear lines by lining up a straight, having 3 pairs, having your numbers add to 21, or the most powerful straight flush running from 1 to 6 in order. There are 5 levels of 20 stages each to complete, with each level and stage becoming more difficult. You can earn a big point bonus if you complete a stage without using a hand. I tried this on a later stage and found that any little mistake would keep me from succeeding in my goal. After trying for way too long, I went back to the first stage to see if it was true, and it indeed was. After winning, I took a stab at tournament mode. Here you play a series of matches against the computer and try to defeat them. When you score 2 lines or more, the other player gets the extra lines pushed down on them. You want to crush them with the dice in order to win. They get very difficult by the time you get to the final match, and it's a good play to hit them with the straight flush. When it comes to grading Palamedes on NES, graphics get a 1.0. There's nothing special about the graphics, except you get little cutscenes when you clear a level or win a tournament. Sound gets a 1.5. Music is alright, and the sounds aren't offensive. Gameplay gets a 3.0. I think the premise of the game works pretty well, even if my button presses would occasionally double register, messing me up. Difficulty gets a 3.0. It was pretty easy overall, but I played the first level and didn't mess with the later ones. Fun factor gets a 3.0. This is an enjoyable game that you should probably give a try to. Overall, Palamedes earns a 2.3 and gets a C+. This is another one of those games that I had never tried, and probably never would have, but I would have been worse off for it. It's a pretty fun title that allows for competitive puzzle play without having to have friends. Channel the bad boys era of basketball and start throwing punches in arch rivals. Choose one of 4 two-man teams to take control of and dominate the hardwood. There are also 8 players to choose to take control of, each supposedly with their own particular strengths. Do you have what it takes to knock out your opponents? This is not a deep simulation of basketball. This is the precursor to NBA Jam. On defense, you can jump with the A button to try and interfere with shots, or throw a punch with the B button. Hold that bad boy down to load it up and release to launch a bomb. If either of your opponents are in your way, they'll be down on the ground. Offense doesn't give you much more. Pass or call for a pass with the B button, and shoot or have your teammate shoot with the A button. You have to be careful not to pass it to your teammate when the other team is by him, or it's pretty much a guaranteed steal. The 8 choices of players says they have different strengths, but to be honest, I don't think they do. I think everyone plays exactly the same, and that's okay. What's not okay is the stupid little cutscenes that play after each basket. I get that there was likely a sponsorship deal with British Knights, but taking 3 seconds after each score to show the name and break up the flow of the game was maddening. You have to keep an eye on the referee because he can't see anything and will trip you if you get too close. The second half also has garbage on the court that can trip you. Shots go in way more than you would expect, so it's smart to take shots, even if they'd be low percentage. Slam dunks allow you to channel Shaq by demolishing the glass. Once you get used to punching your opponents whenever possible and getting in the way of their shots, you should be able to put up a ton of points. At the end of the game, you get your stats when it comes to points scored, shooting percentage, steals, and rebounds. Your efforts stick around for each character until you power things down and the high scores are erased. Oh well, you can't have everything. When it comes to grading arch rivals on NES, graphics get a 2.0. What I can say is that sprites are big, even if they look pretty awful. Cutscenes look a lot better, but you get a lot of flickering on the court. Sound gets a 1.5. Music is subdued, but stops every time there's a cutscene. The sound effects aren't offensive, but they aren't good. Gameplay gets a 3.0. The action on the court is fast-paced until you score a basket. Punching works, defense works, offense works. Now, if only it was a legitimate NBA game. Difficulty gets a 2.5. Once you get used to the controls, you should be able to control the game without a problem. Fun factor gets a 3.0. Despite what it lacks, I had a good time with Arch Rivals. For all the misses the NES has had in terms of basketball, this one feels good. Overall, Arch Rivals earns a 2.4 and gets a C+. This is a good game, and I expect the real-life brawls that would come out of playing with friends is enough to keep it as a go-to choice. Take it to some invading aliens and kill them all with hellfire. Over 1,000 years of peace comes to an end with a bang as an ominous dark nebula is engulfing star systems. The deadly Super Mack is controlling the evil. As all hope seems lost, it's up to Lancer, aircraft carrier captain, to hop into the most powerful fighter and launch a surprise attack. Equipped with the ultimate weapon, Hellfire, you've got to take the enemy out over 6 levels of side-scrolling shoot-'em-up action. I suggest turning on rapid fire in the options. That makes holding the A button fire without you having to wear it out through rapid pressing. The B button changes the orientation of your shot. You begin by shooting straight ahead. One press has you shooting behind your ship, another has you shooting up and down, while the final press has you shooting from all 4 corners. While you may think the corner shot is the best, it is the weakest. Switching the direction of your shot is the most important thing you can do. It can be a little difficult to not press the button too many times and get yourself in trouble. By the time you make it to the end, you should be a pro at knowing which direction is going to kill your foes. You power up your ship as you expect from the genre. There are speed up icons that appear after killing certain enemies, as well as weapon power-ups. Your gun goes from relatively weak shots to some pretty powerful triple blasts as long as you can stay alive. This is easier said than done, of course. Enemies pop on screen without any warning. You have to hope you figure out a pattern and position yourself properly. If you can find a glowing shield, you can take a hit of damage before dying. Otherwise, you're dead if you're touched. The Seeker power-up is an awesome little guy that runs around the screen and hurts enemies on contact. There are bonus power-ups that double the amount of score they give you as you collect them. The last item you can get is a Hellfire Blast. A touch of the C button unleashes a fiery laser. I didn't use these nearly as much as I probably should have, but they only shoot ahead. Dying sends you to a checkpoint without your power-ups. Losing all your lives forces you to continue and start from the beginning of the level. Easy gives you 20 continues, hard mode gives you 10. Levels have both a mid-boss and an end boss. These guys have predictable patterns, but that doesn't mean it's easy to avoid their attacks. Get through all 6 levels and you're invited to try again at a harder difficulty. The instruction manual says there are multiple rounds, but I didn't stick around long enough to see more than the beginning of the second round. When it comes to grading Hellfire on Sega Genesis, graphics get a 2.5. It's not the best looking game I've seen, but everything is nice looking. Sound gets 3.0. This is some very crunchy Genesis sound that I enjoy. Gameplay gets a 2.5. Get used to switching your aim a lot. That's the game. Difficulty gets a 2.0. There's too much pop-in, you're dead moments, but you have 20 continues, so there's no reason you can't memorize every level. Fun factor gets 2.5. I enjoyed my playthrough, but not enough to keep going through round 2. Overall, Hellfire earns a 2.5 and gets a B-. This is a solid game for fans of the genre, but you will die a lot, so be prepared. Take out the violent creatures hell-bent on ruining your day in Strider. The Earth was ruined by 1998 following a series of disasters. Fortunately, this was the catalyst of bringing humanity together. However, alien creatures began to invade and wiped out 80% of life on the planet. Deep in the South Seas, the Striders called the island of Morelos their home. The A-class Strider Hiryu was assigned the task of defeating the invaders and saving Earth. I got this game when I was 5 or 6 and remember really thinking it was great. Did I have what it took to get through 5 levels of non-stop action? Strider is an action platformer that is heavy on running, jumping, and attacking. The Plasma Sword Falcon strikes with button B. This sword can earn a length upgrade if you find the proper item capsule. Hiryu does some great acrobatic jumps, flipping and moving farther as he gains more speed. Walls and ledges can be automatically hooked to and climbed along. Unfortunately, this leads to hooking on things you don't really want. You'll want to keep an eye open for item capsules that can sometimes hold health items. They also rarely have a small robot that acts as an option. One of your health bars turns red, and as long as you don't get hit, you keep your option. They aren't very helpful. You'll be playing certain sections a lot as you make a bad jump or something unexpected kills you. Then you get past that, and the same type of situation gets you. The third time you get by and make some progress until the process starts all over again. You're best off setting yourself to 5 lives in the options menu. You'll still run through your 3 continues and have to start from the beginning multiple times until you get everything memorized. Even then, items don't always show up where they do in other lives, so you might luck out and get something good in one life, but nothing in the next. Making it to the bosses is a test of endurance. Many bosses typically exist in each level. The end bosses are sometimes the easiest, like this whip guy or helm captain guy. The big bosses have weak spots and patterns that you have to figure out and learn. Getting there, you need to become a master of attacking. Really, you should always be attacking. And don't forget to use your slide attack by pressing down and forward with button A or C. There's a time limit on each section of a stage that you don't want to let count down, or you get to start over. If I'm being perfectly honest, you'll be starting over a lot anyway. This game does not make your life easy. The final level is extremely difficult to navigate. Most of it is under inverted gravity. There are moving platforms with drill bits on the end, which leads to the very worst area in the game that I had to try dozens of times and finally cheat my way through. These little drones are the bane of this game's existence. Once you finally get past this area, you get to run a boss gauntlet. Hope you have plenty of lives. Then ride the back of level 1's boss, not fall, and make it to the final boss. This guy is a massive pain. You get 1 health replenish and 1 sword upgrade. I died so many times before I just bum rushed him as fast as I could and drained his health before he could kill me. When it comes to grading Strider on the Sega Genesis, graphics get a 3.5. There's always a lot going on in every screen, and it usually looks pretty good. Those cutscene pictures are really bad though. Sound gets 2.5. My memory remembered the music and sound design better and more robust than it actually is, much to my dismay. Gameplay gets a 2.5. It's a quick pick-up and play style that is not simple to master. Controls aren't very tight and you'll misstep to your doom more than you'll like. Difficulty gets a 2.0. The difficulty curve ramps up pretty quickly, and I put the last level at a near impossibility with the limited lives and continues you're granted. Fun factor gets 2.5. It's fun for a little bit, then you get cheap death to bunch and the frustration seeps in. Overall, Strider earns a 2.6 and gets a B-. I had fond memories of this game that I have since lost once playing through again. It's an arcade port, but it wasn't balanced well for the home console. Restore peace and unity as you take your rightful place on the throne in conquest of the Crystal Palace. You're one of 2 survivors from when Xeris, the terrible war spirit, destroyed the prosperous kingdom. The citizens were all transported to the stars in areas of the sky not seen before. You, Prince Farron, were transformed into a 6-month-old, while the castle keeper Zappalis was transformed into a dog called Zap. Now at the age of 15, Farron must complete 5 stages of action in order to save the Crystal Palace. The beginning of your adventure has you choosing one of the 3 crystals. They each grant you a power. Each crystal forgoes the need of buying an item in the shop. The attack crystal gives you permanent access to the fire magic. The health gives you the life potion you can buy to increase your life. The flight crystal gives you the jumping boots for extra height. No matter which you choose, you come equipped with a sword that you slash with the B button. Jumping is handled with the A button. You can jump and slash, but your upward momentum is stopped as you do. If you currently have a magic spell, you can switch to it by holding down and pressing the A button until it's highlighted. Upgrades can be purchased at Kim's convenience shop when you can find her in the stage. You need a lot of money to buy things from Kim's shop because she likes raising the price each subsequent purchase or level you reach. That's why, when you find spots where little faces continuously float down from the ceiling, I took some time to grind some cash. Upgrades to the magic are temporary and only grant you a certain number of uses. They aren't absolutely necessary, especially if you took the attack crystal at the beginning of the game. There are certain enemies that will drop magic upgrades, a sword upgrade that shoots a wave, and an armor upgrade that grants temporary invulnerability. A couple levels feature pits that, if you fall down, you don't die. You're sent back to the beginning of the level or last checkpoint. This is both a blessing and an annoyance, because just when you get past the difficult area, you can get sent right back. The last level is a maze, and if you take the wrong door, you end up doing it all over again. The end of each level has a boss you need to defeat. The handsome fella from the game's box shows up as the boss of Stage 2, and he was a tough one to figure out. It took me a couple of minutes to take him down when I first reached him. You can bring Zap into play in the same way you change your weapon. He runs around on screen, attacks baddies, and collects coins. I didn't figure this out right until the final boss, but if you have the dog whistle and hold up while Zap is out, he'll spin around you like a top and you can throw him to attack enemies. This made the final bosses a cinch to defeat. Like, no trouble at all. I went back to try it on the boss of Stage 2 and killed him in 3 hits. You can keep playing at a higher difficulty when you win, but I didn't see the appeal. When it comes to grading Conquest of the Crystal Palace on NES, graphics get a 3.0. Overall, I found the graphics really nice. They weren't breaking a lot of new ground, but they were doing things correctly, and it shows. Sound gets 3.0. Music and sounds are above average in quality. Gameplay gets a 3.0. Farron controls mostly well. It took getting used to the jumping sword slash stopping your upward momentum. Difficulty gets a 2.5. Levels are straightforward until the end. There are a lot of cheap spots that require a lot of practice to get through unscathed, or even lightly scathed. Fun factor gets a 2.5. There were a couple of times that I was more annoyed by than enjoying the game, but a second playthrough might be more enjoyable. Overall, Conquest of the Crystal Palace earns a 2.8 and gets a B. This is a game I had in my collection for decades and never really played. I missed out. Don't make the same mistake. Head to the gridiron in 16 bits in John Madden Football. There are 16 teams representing different cities, but the NFL license isn't here. Regular season is an exhibition game where you can choose anyone you want and pit them against anyone else you want. Sudden death is a rush to be the first to score. The playoffs put all 16 teams against each other in a set bracket. The only yardstick for success our society has is being a champion. No one remembers anything else. Prove your worth on the field by winning 4 games in a row. They'll score if they can just get into the end zone. You need to be able to put up points. There are a few different packages you can choose from on offense, but they all offer similar plays. Yellow-coded plays are running plays, while the brownish-coded plays are pass plays. You can see the routes being run by your receivers and the button they correspond to. When dropping back to pass, the C button brings up the passing window, and then you choose who you're going to throw it to. When in control of the ball handler, the A button will dive for an extra shot at yardage. The B button will perform a spin move in an attempt to avoid tackles. The C button drops the shoulder and allows you to give a little extra oomph. You would have scored a touchdown if you hadn't been tackled right there. Passing is easier to succeed with than running, but if you have a good running back, finding the hole is possible. The defense should be expecting a run or a pass here. There are 4 different formations that change the type of players on the field. The defensive formations typically offer you 3 sets: read, cover, and contain. I typically used read when I wasn't totally sure what the offense was planning, cover to stop sure passing downs, and contain to have them stick to the middle on run plays. I don't understand people that choose to play positions not on the defensive line, but I guess there must be fans of controlling a safety out there. You got one guy going boom, one guy going whack, and one guy not getting in the end zone. Give something that wasn't expected. If you get to the line of scrimmage and don't like what you called, you can call an audible by pressing the A button and then A, B, or C button. He got up looking out of his ear hole. If you want to put some hurt on your opposition, go for a diving tackle with the A button. If a pass gets off and you can get in the way, the C button allows you to bat it down. Sometimes the offense can burn by you, causing great sadness, but don't give up because a tap of the B button will change control to the nearest defensive player, giving you another shot. Usually, the team that turns the ball over less will hold on to the ball more. Fumbles and interceptions are a part of the game, and if you're good, you can cause them. Mashing the B button as you attempt to tackle will occasionally cause a fumble. If you can get it, enjoy 4 new downs. Interceptions are less easy to come by. They're defensive backs, not wide receivers after all. If you make it to 4th down and aren't confident you can convert, you always have the ability to punt or kick a field goal. There is a power and direction meter that you need to hit correctly to put the ball where you want it. Remember, at the end of the game, the team with the most points on the board is gonna win. When it comes to grading John Madden Football on Sega Genesis, graphics get a 2.5. Everything is pretty pixelated as opposed to looking smooth. Player models are identical with no differentiation to set people apart. Sound gets a 2.5. Sounds are good. During the game, expect to hear the QB, whistles, and people smashing into each other. Gameplay gets a 3.5. There are a lot of options to move the ball down the field or squash your opposition, and it all works properly. Difficulty gets a 2.5. I was San Francisco and wasn't presented with much of a challenge. I'm sure playing as other teams would have made my life more difficult. Fun factor gets a 3.0. I played 4 games in a row and enjoyed myself. I'd probably play another game here or there. Overall, John Madden Football earns a 2.8 and gets a B. There's a reason the Madden series is one of the longest-running, highest-grossing game series of all time. This is a great start, and there's plenty of room for improvement. You are Guy Kazama, a one-man army in Last Alert. You've been tapped to kill thousands of bad guys and foil the ambitions of the Evil Force Project. Lasersoft is part of Telenet Japan, so unsurprisingly, this is a very similar experience to Final Zone 2. There's some really bad voice acting in the very similarly styled cutscenes. The final bad guy you kill, Dr. Garcia, sure looks like Dr. Alif Ruman, doesn't he? This globe-trotting affair puts you through 23 stages of heart-pounding action. There are 6 different primary guns that you unlock by gaining experience through killing enemies and completing objectives. Guy starts as a ranger and gains many new titles as he murders baddies, including Metal Soldier, Mad Thunder, and Superhero. Once you unlock it, you probably don't need anything but the heavy machine gun. With its 5-way shot, you can mow everyone down without issue. You may think the final weapon you unlock is the best one, but the missile launcher is really a niche weapon with limited use. Same goes with the grenade launcher because its fire rate is low. The Uzi with its rapid fire shot and M16 with its 3-bullet spread are definitely useful while they are the best weapons you have. There are a number of secondary weapons available as well. These are limited by item pickups that either exist or are unlocked by destroying items or enemies. These all act as I expected. The grenade gives a bit of splash damage around where it lands. The missile shoots in 4 directions around you and sometimes seeks out enemies. The satellite adds orbs at your sides that shoot and also block incoming projectiles. The disc launcher throws out 4 razor discs in diagonal directions. Finally, the flamethrower shoots ahead in the direction you're facing and is really nice when fighting certain bosses. You are capped at 9 of each secondary weapon, and they are rather plentiful, so don't just stockpile them. Enjoy them. Most of the time, what you really want enemies to drop is a med kit to replenish your health. Several times during your adventure, you can choose the order of levels you play. You still have to play them all, and I don't think it really makes a difference, but it's a nice sense of player agency. The time limit is a real obstacle in the levels. You can't screw around in the later stages or you'll run out of time. Most levels, designated by blue, are just kill everything and make your way to a boss levels, but there are 2 other variations. Yellow levels have you completing an objective before you fight the boss. The red levels are stealth levels that require you to only use your Colt or risk alerting more enemies. Each act leads up to killing one of the bosses of Forest Project. They give you a line before you fight them, of which I enjoy Colonel Kadat and Guy's report to him.
Guy Kazama, how dare you kill these precious men whom I've trained?
Well, Colonel, you haven't done a very good job of training them.
The levels aren't incredibly long, but you do have to stay on task because death means you lose all of your secondary weapons. This isn't usually a big deal because you can collect more. Well, until the final level, where you only get a flamethrower, a missile, and a satellite for the final bosses. It took me several tries to figure out the pattern of the last battle, but after finally destroying the end boss, the final cutscenes wouldn't load. Good thing YouTube exists. When it comes to grading Last Alert on Turbo CD, graphics get a 3.0. Characters and stages look very nice. Cutscenes are good, but mostly just still photos with mouths moving. Sound gets a 3.0. Sound quality is great. The voiceover is awful. Just terrible. Laughable, really. Gameplay gets a 3.5. The controls are great. You get a lot of guns, you can switch among them easily. It's nice. Difficulty gets a 3.0. It's really easy to run through each level blowing everything away, but there's a big difficulty spike at the very end. Fun factor gets a 3.5. I enjoyed myself a lot. I thought the game was fun to play, and the story made some semblance of sense. Overall, Last Alert earns a 3.2 and gets a B+. Overall, this is a really good game that you should try if you're into run and gun shoot-em-ups. Don your arm cannon once again and head to the mining worlds in Mega Man 3. Dr. Wily has come to his senses and is teaming up with Dr. Light to make the world a better place. They need Mega Man to head to 8 different levels and subdue the robot masters before they destroy everything. Can you help them? There are 8 new robot masters for you to defeat and commandeer their weapons. My path was set in stone when I was a small child and decided Magnet Man would be the first to fall prey to my Megabuster. His level is fairly easy and his battle is easy to win with the use of the new slide mechanic. If you hold down and press the A button, you'll slide quickly in the direction you're facing. I use this often as I feel you move a bit quicker sliding compared to running. Just like all the other Mega Man games, bosses follow a rock, paper, scissors pattern. One robot master is best at killing another. Magnet Man kills Hard Man, who kills Top Man, who kills Shadow Man, who kills Spark Man. Then Snake Man is a pain in my butt and usually kills me a few times before I remember his pattern. Then Gemini Man, and finishing with Needle Man. The last 3 stages are the ones that give me trouble. Occasionally during these stages, you'll run into the biggest problem in Mega Man 3, the slowdown. If there's too much going on screen, you'll have to deal with a huge frame rate drop. After defeating the 8 Robot Masters, 4 Shadow Master levels open up. These are really mean remixes of some of the levels you've already completed. Spikes are added where they weren't before. The need for Rush Jet or Rush Marine are intensified. The slowdown in this garbage brick dropping portion exists and makes me incredibly angry. I played through the Anniversary Collection years ago and found this section to be nearly impossible and chalked it up to the emulator. But it exists here too. Unforgivable. In these levels, you face off against the bosses from Mega Man 2. Hope you figure out what's best to take them down. After defeating the Shadow Robot Masters, there's a battle with Proto Man and a truncated Wily's Castle. These levels are the least of your worries, as you'll see the rock monster returning and a boss gauntlet. Afterward, it's the battle against Dr. Wily and his new robot Gamma. If you've been collecting E-Tanks, you'll have no problem in these battles because you can refill your health. Rush Jet is your best friend against Wily, and I refuse to use Search Snake against Gamma. I must kill him with Top Spin. When it comes to grading Mega Man 3 on NES, graphics get a 3.0. Graphics haven't progressed in 3 entries, and the slowdown when too much gets on screen is unforgivable. Sound is 3.5. The music and sound is great. I don't put it at Mega Man 2 level though. Gameplay gets 3.0. A slide has been added, as well as some new rush forms, but the boss weapons mainly feel like retreads. Difficulty gets 3.0. If you know the order to play the levels, you should be fine, but some of those bosses can be cheap tough. Fun factor gets a 3.5. It's still a great time outside of the slowdown, and with the addition of the Shadow Master levels, clocks in longer than Mega Man 2. Overall, Mega Man 3 earns a 3.2 and gets a B+. While not as good as its predecessor, this is still in the upper echelon of NES games, and you should definitely play it. Take a team of commandos and light up the bad guys in Final Zone 2. You have a team of top fighting units led by Captain Howard Bowie. After having your space station destroyed while on board, equipped with some new age power suits, you want to get some revenge on Dr. Alif Ruman. You've got 7 stages to get the team back together and put an end to Ruman's evil plans. The Turbo CD never disappoints when it comes to silly anime cutscenes, and you're in for a treat here if you enjoy them. The first few missions put you in control of specific fighters in a run-and-gun environment where you move to the top of the screen. Enemies constantly appear and you blast them straight to hell with your primary weapon using button 2. You can aim in 8 directions, but you can't move while shooting. Different characters have different ranges with their attack. Momoko's sniper rifle has the longest range, while Velder's lightsaber has the shortest. Bowie's Vulcan cannon shoots at an amazing rate. Each character also has a secondary weapon activated with button 1. These are stronger attacks with a limited amount of ammo. Bowie's bazooka does a great deal of damage. Hannah differs from Bowie because her secondary is a laser beam, which Velder also has. Momoko has a grenade. Hanson's got a nice spread shot for his primary weapon, and a heat-seeking missile as a secondary. As you get hit, your health bar will turn from green to red. Killing certain enemies will drop power-ups. B to give an extra secondary shot. H to replenish some health. More rarely, you can get a P to increase your maximum health, or S to fill your health bar to its current maximum. Go with the P when you see it. Never waste your time with the S. If you do happen to die, you're brought back to the beginning of the level and must redo some work. The later stages give you the choice of who you want to take into battle. I think you can win with anyone, so it's up to your personal preference. Just blast everyone that comes on screen and you shouldn't have any problems. Bosses have set patterns and are relatively easy to exploit if you have your positioning just right. Only the final boss gave me trouble with its multiple forms. I tried with 3 different characters, finally offing him with Bowie. The final cutscene was enjoyable, despite its flaws.
That's what you should have done in the beginning.
When it comes to grading Final Zone 2 on TurboGrafx CD, graphics get a 3.0. Level graphics are pretty standard, but the cutscenes are well done despite the mostly still frames. Sound gets 3.5. The music is out of sight, but the voiceovers leave much to be desired. Gameplay gets a 3.5. Movement and shooting are pretty tight. There are enough differences to make playing as different characters an enjoyable experience. Difficulty gets a 3.0. The difficulty curve is appropriate, though the game skews easy overall. Fun factor gets a 3.5. This is a pretty fun, simple run-and-gun shoot-'em-up that I enjoyed immensely. Overall, Final Zone 2 earns a 3.3 and gets a B+. This is a solid game that I can recommend, as it doesn't veer into the too long territory. Well, that's going to do it for me for today. Please make sure to like this video. Let me know what you think of my rankings for November 1990. And please subscribe to Head Drop Productions here on YouTube, because we want you here for each and every video we release. Because it is your destiny.